Sometimes the most life-changing relationships begin with a stranger's soft laugh in the darkness and a cup of coffee left outside your door. The rain was hitting the windows so hard it sounded like tiny rocks. Maya pulled her old car into the parking spot outside her apartment building and just sat there for a minute. Her hands were shaking, not from cold, but from pure tiredness. It was almost 3 in the morning and she had just finished the longest shift of her life at the animal hospital. 3 weeks straight of working extra hours, sleeping maybe 4 hours a night and living on coffee and whatever food she could grab between emergencies. Maya worked at the emergency animal clinic downtown. You know, the place where people bring their pets when something terrible happens at 2 in the morning. Tonight had been especially crazy. A family brought in their dog who had eaten something poisonous. Then came a cat who got hit by a car. After that, someone found an injured bird in their backyard. Each case took hours. Maya wasn't even a real vet yet, just someone who loved animals and was trying to save money for vet school. But Dr. Peterson, the main vet, trusted her with a lot. Maybe too much, but Maya never said no to helping an animal in pain. She looked at herself in the car mirror. Her brown hair was a complete mess, falling out of the hair tie she'd put in 12 hours ago. Her scrubs were covered in stains she didn't even want to think about. There was mud from the injured bird, some medicine that had spilled, and probably dog hair stuck to everything. Maya grabbed her bag and ran through the rain to the apartment building. The building was old and not very nice, but it was all she could afford. The elevator was broken again, so she had to walk up 3 flights of stairs. Her legs felt like rubber. When she finally got to her door, she fumbled with her keys. Her hands were so tired she could barely get the key in the lock. The hallway was quiet except for the sound of rain on the roof and someone's TV playing softly somewhere. She opened her door and stepped into her small apartment. It wasn't much to look at, just a tiny living room, a kitchen that was basically just a counter and a stove, and a bedroom that could barely fit her bed. But right now it looked like paradise. Maya didn't even turn on the lights. She was so tired she could barely think straight. She just wanted to get out of these dirty clothes and maybe take a hot shower before falling into bed. She came straight in, tossed her clothes aside without even looking where they landed. And then something funny happened. She started to laugh. Not a happy laugh, but a tired, crazy kind of laugh. The kind you do when you're so exhausted that everything seems a little bit unreal. The laugh was soft, almost like a whisper. She wasn't trying to be quiet, it just came out that way. It was the sound of someone who had pushed themselves to the very limit and was somehow still standing. Maya stood there in her apartment, still laughing softly, and looked around at her messy clothes on the floor. Her work shirt was inside out. Her socks didn't match. Her name tag was hanging sideways. Everything looked so ridiculous that she laughed even more. She thought about her day. The dog with the poisoning had made it through surgery. The cat was going to be okay after getting hit by the car. Even the little bird would probably fly again in a few weeks. All those animals were alive because she had worked so hard. That should have made her happy. But she was too tired to feel much of anything except exhausted. What Maya didn't know was that someone was listening to her laugh. In the apartment above hers lived a guy named Alex. He was a photographer, or at least he was trying to be one. For the past few months, he hadn't been sleeping well. He'd lie in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about all the pictures he wanted to take but couldn't seem to create. Alex had been having a hard time lately. His girlfriend had moved away for a new job 6 months ago, and they decided to break up instead of trying to make it work long distance. His photography wasn't making enough money to pay all his bills. He was starting to wonder if he should give up on his dream and get a regular job. Because he couldn't sleep, Alex had started paying attention to all the sounds in the building. The old man next door who watched TV too loud. The family downstairs with the baby who cried at night. The woman across the hall who practiced piano at weird hours, but he'd never heard anything from the apartment right below his. Until tonight. That soft laugh drifted up through the thin floors. It wasn't a normal laugh. It was tired and real and somehow beautiful. Alex had been lying in bed trying to fall asleep when he heard it. He sat up and listened, but the sound was already gone. There was something about that laugh that made Alex feel less alone. In this big building full of people he never talked to, someone was having a moment that felt completely honest. No pretending, no trying to impress anyone. Just a tired person laughing at the craziness of life. Maya finally picked up her clothes from the floor and headed to the bathroom. She looked at herself in the mirror and almost laughed again. She looked like she'd been through a war, but she'd won. Every animal she'd helped tonight was proof of that. The hot water felt amazing on her tired muscles. She let it wash away all the stress and exhaustion from the day. As she stood under the shower, Maya thought about her future. She still had 2 more years of saving money before she could afford vet school. 2 more years of long shifts and tired nights and falling asleep in her scrubs. But maybe that was okay. Maybe helping animals was worth being tired all the time. Maybe that soft laugh in her empty apartment was the sound of someone who was exactly where they needed to be, even if it was hard. After her shower, Maya fell into bed and was asleep in minutes. She dreamed about the injured bird flying again, about the dog playing in a yard somewhere, about the cat curled up safely at home with its family. Meanwhile, Alex lay awake upstairs thinking about that laugh. He wondered who lived in the apartment below him. He wondered what had made them laugh like that. Most of all, he wondered if he'd ever hear it again. Neither of them knew that this was the beginning of something special. Sometimes the most important moments in our lives happen when we think nobody is watching, when we're too tired to put on a show, when we're just being completely ourselves. Maya's soft laugh in the darkness was about to change both of their lives in ways they never could have imagined. Alex couldn't get that laugh out of his head. 3 days had passed since he first heard it, and he found himself lying awake at night hoping to hear it again. He felt a little silly about it, but there was something about that sound that made him feel connected to another human being for the first time in months. His life had been pretty lonely lately. After his girlfriend moved away, Alex realized how much of his social life had revolved around her friends. Without her, he spent most of his time alone in his apartment, trying to take pictures that never seemed good enough. His camera sat on his desk, but inspiration felt like something that happened to other people. Alex worked freelance, which meant some weeks he had plenty of money, and other weeks he ate nothing but rice and beans. This was one of those rice and beans weeks. He'd been trying to get his photography business off the ground for 2 years now, but it seemed like everyone wanted pictures for free these days. The apartment building was old and the walls were thin. Alex had gotten used to hearing bits and pieces of his neighbors' lives. The elderly man in 3A watched the same cooking shows every afternoon. The family in 2B had a baby who seemed to cry every night around midnight. The woman in 3C practiced violin badly but enthusiastically, but the apartment right below his had always been quiet. Until that night when he heard the soft laugh. Now Alex found himself paying attention to apartment 2C in a way he never had before. He started noticing patterns. A key turning in a lock at strange hours, water running in the pipes late at night. Sometimes he could hear footsteps, slow and tired sounding. A week after the first laugh, Alex heard it again. It was 2:30 in the morning, and he was lying in bed scrolling through his phone, unable to sleep. He heard the familiar sound of a key in the lock downstairs, then some shuffling around, and then that same soft laugh. This time it lasted a little longer. It had that same tired, almost crazy quality to it, like someone who was so exhausted they found everything a little bit funny. But there was something else in it too. Maybe relief. Maybe the sound of someone who had made it through another difficult day. Alex got up and walked to his window. He could see the parking lot below, and there was an old blue car in spot 7. The same car had been there both nights when he heard the laugh. So whoever lived below him worked late hours and drove that beat-up car. The next morning, Alex found himself thinking about his mysterious neighbor while he edited photos on his computer. He'd gotten a small job taking pictures for a local restaurant's website, and the work was boring, but it paid the bills. As he adjusted the lighting on a photo of a sandwich, he wondered what kind of job kept someone out until 3 in the morning. Maybe they worked at a hospital. Or maybe they were a nurse. Could be a security guard or someone who cleaned office buildings at night. Alex realized he was creating stories about someone he'd never even seen. That afternoon, Alex decided to do something that felt both kind and slightly crazy. He walked down to the coffee shop on the corner and bought a large coffee and a blueberry muffin. Then he wrote a small note on a piece of paper. For whoever lives in 2C. You sound like you work really hard. Hope this helps. From your upstairs neighbor. Alex left the coffee and muffin outside apartment 2C's door along with the note. Then he practically ran back upstairs, feeling embarrassed but also excited. What if they thought he was weird? What if they complained to the landlord? But later that evening, when Alex went to check, both the coffee and muffin were gone. So was the note. Maya had been having another exhausting week. 2 more late-night emergencies at the animal clinic, and her car had started making a weird noise that probably meant expensive repairs she couldn't afford. When she got home at midnight and found the coffee and muffin outside her door, she almost cried. She read the note 3 times. Someone had noticed that she worked hard. Someone cared enough to spend their own money to make her day a little better. Maya couldn't remember the last time someone had done something nice for her just because. She took the coffee and muffin inside and sat on her small couch. The coffee was still warm and the muffin was from her favorite bakery downtown. Whoever had left this had actually put thought into it. These weren't just random items from a gas station. Maya looked up at her ceiling, wondering about the person who lived above her. She'd never really paid attention to the sounds from upstairs before, but now she realized she could sometimes hear footsteps and what sounded like music playing softly. The next night, Maya left a thank you note outside her own door before going to work. "Thank you so much for the coffee and muffin. It was exactly what I needed after a long day. You're very kind." From 2C. When Alex found the note the next morning, he felt happier than he had in weeks. Not only had his gift been appreciated, but now he had proof that his mysterious neighbor was real and grateful. This started what became a strange but wonderful routine. Every few days, Alex would leave something small outside Maya's door. Sometimes it was coffee. Once it was homemade soup that he'd made too much of. Another time it was a small potted plant because he thought everyone should have something green in their apartment. Maya started looking forward to these surprises. On the hardest days at work, when she'd dealt with the saddest cases or worked the longest hours, she'd come home to find some small kindness waiting for her. It was like having a friend she'd never met. She started leaving thank you notes and eventually began leaving little gifts of her own. A package of cookies from the grocery store, a small succulent plant. Once she left a photo she'd taken of a beautiful sunset on her way home from work, with a note saying, "Thought you might like to see what you missed while working." Alex treasured each note and gift. Maya's handwriting was neat but hurried, like someone who was always in a rush but still wanted to take care with her words. Her gifts were simple but thoughtful. The sunset photo was now taped to his refrigerator. The strangest part was how this anonymous exchange was changing both of their lives. Alex found himself being more creative again. He started carrying his camera around the neighborhood, taking pictures of small, beautiful things he wanted to share. Maya found herself smiling more at work, even on the hardest days. Neither of them knew the other's name or what they looked like, but somehow through coffee and muffins and thank you notes, they were becoming important parts of each other's lives. Maya still came home exhausted most nights. She still laughed that soft, tired laugh when she tossed her clothes aside, but now Alex listened for it with a smile instead of loneliness. It had become the sound of someone he cared about making it through another day. Sometimes the most meaningful relationships start in the most unexpected ways. 2 people, living their separate lives just a few feet apart, finding connection through simple acts of kindness. Neither Alex nor Maya knew it yet, but their anonymous friendship was about to become something much more important to both of them. Mrs. Chen had been watching the whole thing unfold from her apartment window. At 72 years old, she'd been the building manager for almost 15 years. And she prided herself on knowing everything that happened in her building. She'd seen Alex leaving gifts outside apartment 2C, and she'd seen Maya leaving thank you notes in return. At first, Mrs. Chen was suspicious. Was this some kind of strange activity that she needed to worry about? But after watching for a few weeks, she realized what was actually happening. 2 lonely young people were taking care of each other, without even knowing who the other person was. Mrs. Chen had lived through enough life to recognize something special when she saw it. She'd been married to her husband for 48 years before he passed away 3 years ago. She knew that the best relationships often started with simple kindness, but she was also getting worried. What if this anonymous friendship went on forever? What if these 2 people never actually met? Mrs. Chen had seen too many opportunities for happiness slip away because people were too scared to take the next step. The opportunity came on a Tuesday evening in late October. A big storm had knocked out power to half the neighborhood, including their apartment building. Mrs. Chen was walking through the hallways with a flashlight checking on her tenants, when she heard voices in the stairwell. Maya had just gotten home from work and was trying to navigate the dark stairs with only her phone's flashlight. She was more tired than usual because the animal clinic had been crazy busy all day. 3 emergency surgeries and a dog who had eaten an entire chocolate cake. Alex was coming down the stairs from his apartment, carrying a real flashlight and some candles. He'd heard people moving around in the building and thought maybe he could help someone who was having trouble in the dark. They met on the landing between the 2nd and 3rd floors. "Oh, sorry," Maya said, shining her phone light accidentally right into Alex's eyes. "No problem," Alex replied, blinking and holding up his hand to block the light. "Are you okay? This power outage is pretty bad." Maya lowered her phone. "Yeah, I'm fine. Just trying to get to my apartment." "I'm in 2C, Alex's heart stopped for a second. 2C, really?" "Yeah, why?" "I'm in 3C, right above you." There was a moment of silence as both of them realized what this meant. Maya thought about all the gifts that had been left outside her door. Alex thought about all the thank you notes he'd been treasuring. Mrs. Chen, who had been listening from around the corner, chose that exact moment to appear with her flashlight. "Oh good, you two have met," she said, as if this was the most natural thing in the world. "Alex, this is Maya. Maya, this is Alex. Alex is the photographer I told you about. Maya. And Maya works at the animal hospital. Alex." Both Alex and Maya stared at Mrs. Chen. Neither of them had ever told her their names or their jobs. Mrs. Chen smiled. "When you've been managing an apartment building as long as I have, you learn things. Plus, Alex, your mail sometimes gets delivered to my box by mistake. And Maya, Dr. Peterson called here once when you forgot your phone at work." Maya felt her cheeks get warm. "So you've known this whole time that we were leaving gifts for each other?" "Of course I knew. I see everything that happens in this building. I've been wondering when you two would finally meet properly." Alex laughed, and Maya realized she'd heard that laugh before through her ceiling late at night. "So you're the one who's been leaving coffee outside my door," Maya said. "And you're the one who left me that beautiful sunset photo," Alex replied. Mrs. Chen looked pleased with herself. "Why don't you both come to my apartment? I have battery-powered lanterns and I was just making tea on my camping stove. We can wait out this power outage together." Maya looked at Alex, and Alex looked at Maya. In the dim light of their phones and Mrs. Chen's flashlight, they could finally see each other clearly for the first time. Maya saw a guy about her age with messy brown hair and kind eyes. He was wearing an old sweater with a small hole in the sleeve and jeans that looked like he'd had them forever. He looked exactly like the kind of person who would leave thoughtful gifts for strangers. Alex saw a woman with tired but beautiful eyes and long dark hair pulled back in a ponytail. She was wearing scrubs covered in animal hair and what looked like paw prints. She looked exactly like someone who would work all night to save animals and then leave grateful thank you notes. "That sounds really nice," Maya said to Mrs. Chen. "But I should warn you, I probably smell like dogs and disinfectant. And I haven't showered today because I was trying to fix my camera equipment," Alex added. Mrs. Chen waved her hand dismissively. "You both smell fine. Come on." Mrs. Chen's apartment was on the 1st floor and was much bigger than either Alex's or Maya's. She had comfortable furniture, plants everywhere, and photos of her late husband covering most surfaces. The battery lanterns made everything glow softly, like they were camping indoors. "So," Mrs. Chen said as she poured tea into 3 mugs, "how long have you two been taking care of each other without actually meeting?" Maya and Alex looked at each other and started laughing. Not tired laughing like Maya's late-night exhaustion laugh, but real, happy laughter. "About 2 months, Alex said. "The coffee and muffin was the first thing," Maya added. "I almost cried when I found it. It had been such a terrible day at work." "I heard you laugh that night," Alex said quietly. "That's actually what started everything. You came home really late and you were laughing to yourself. It didn't sound like a happy laugh exactly. More like someone who was so tired they found everything funny." Maya nodded. "I remember that night. I'd worked a 15-hour shift and I was so exhausted I could barely think straight. I can't believe you heard me." "The walls in this building are paper thin," Mrs. Chen said. "I've been telling the landlord to fix that for years." They talked until almost midnight. Maya told them about her job at the animal clinic, about how she was saving money for vet school, about the crazy cases she'd seen and the animals she'd helped save. Alex talked about his photography, about how he'd been struggling creatively until he started leaving gifts for Maya. He showed them some of his recent photos on his phone, including several he'd taken around the neighborhood, while thinking about things to leave for his mysterious downstairs neighbor. Mrs. Chen told them stories about the building, about other tenants she'd helped over the years, and about her late husband who had been a romantic just like she was. You know, Mrs. Chen said as the evening wound down, some of the best things in life happen when we least expect them. You two have been taking care of each other for months without even knowing it. That tells me something important about both of your characters. When the power finally came back on around midnight, none of them wanted the evening to end, but Maya had to work early the next morning, and Alex had a photography job scheduled. As they said goodnight in the hallway, Maya turned to Alex. Thank you for all the gifts. They meant more to me than you'll ever know. Thank you for the notes and the sunset photo, Alex replied. It's been the best part of my day for weeks, knowing someone appreciated the little things I was doing. Maybe we could have coffee together sometime, Maya suggested. I mean real coffee, not the kind left outside doors. I'd really like that, Alex said. As Maya walked to her apartment and Alex climbed the stairs to his, both of them felt like something important had shifted in their lives. They weren't anonymous neighbors anymore. They were two people who had found each other in the most unexpected way, and they were both excited to see where this new friendship might lead. Everything was perfect for exactly 3 weeks. Alex and Maya had started having coffee together every few days when their schedules allowed. They discovered they both loved old movies, terrible jokes, and staying up too late talking about their dreams. Alex had even started bringing his camera when they went for walks, taking pictures while Maya told him stories about the animals she'd helped at work. Maya felt lighter than she had in months. Having someone to talk to who understood her weird schedule made everything easier. Alex was patient when she had to cancel plans because of emergencies at work, and he never made her feel guilty for being tired all the time. Alex was creating his best work in years. Maya had inspired him to start a photography project about people who worked night shifts in the city. He'd been taking portraits of nurses, security guards, taxi drivers, and other people who kept the city running while everyone else slept. A small gallery downtown had even expressed interest in showing his work. Then Ryan came back. Maya was having lunch with Alex at their favorite little cafe when she saw him through the window. Tall, perfectly dressed in an expensive suit, looking exactly like the successful doctor he'd always planned to become. Ryan Peterson, her ex-fiancé, who had left town 2 years ago to pursue his medical residency. Maya. Alex noticed she'd gone completely quiet. Are you okay? I'm fine, Maya said automatically, but she was staring out the window. I just saw someone I used to know. Ryan had already spotted her through the window. He was walking toward the cafe with that confident smile she remembered so well. Maya felt her stomach drop. Maya Rodriguez, Ryan said as he pushed through the cafe door. I can't believe it's really you. Maya forced a smile. Hi Ryan, what are you doing back in town? I finished my residency in plastic surgery, Ryan said proudly. I'm starting a practice here next month. I was hoping I'd run into you. Alex looked between Maya and Ryan, sensing tension but not understanding what was happening. Maya realized she needed to introduce them. Ryan, this is Alex. Alex, this is Ryan. We were engaged before he moved away for medical school. Alex felt like someone had punched him in the stomach. Engaged? Maya had never mentioned being engaged to anyone. Ryan looked at Alex briefly, then focused all his attention back on Maya. You look amazing. Still working with animals, I assume? I work at the emergency animal clinic, Maya said quietly. Still planning to go to vet school? Ryan asked. Maya nodded, feeling suddenly embarrassed about her simple job and her tired appearance next to Ryan's polished success. Well, now that I'm back, maybe we could catch up, Ryan said. I'd love to take you to dinner. How about tomorrow night? That new place downtown? Maya glanced at Alex, who was staring into his coffee cup. I don't know if that's a good idea, Ryan. Come on, Maya, we have so much to talk about. I've been thinking about you the whole time I was away. After Ryan left, Alex and Maya sat in uncomfortable silence for several minutes. You were engaged, Alex finally said. 2 years ago, before he left for his residency. Why didn't you tell me? Maya sighed. Because it's over. Because he left and never looked back until now. Because it doesn't matter anymore. But even as she said it, Maya wasn't sure if that was completely true. Over the next few days, Ryan kept showing up everywhere. At the coffee shop where Maya and Alex usually met. Outside the animal clinic when Maya got off work. He even sent flowers to her apartment with a note that said, "For old time's sake." Alex tried to act normal, but Maya could tell he was bothered. He became quieter during their conversations, and he stopped suggesting plans for the future. When Maya had to cancel their coffee date because of an emergency at work, Alex just said okay instead of asking if she wanted to reschedule. Meanwhile, Ryan was being persistent in a way that reminded Maya why she'd fallen for him in the first place. He was charming and confident and had a plan for everything. He took her to expensive restaurants and talked about the successful practice he was starting. He reminded her that they'd always talked about getting married and having a stable life together. "I made a mistake leaving without you," Ryan told her over dinner at the fanciest restaurant in town. "I thought I needed to focus completely on my career. But I realize now that I want to share my success with someone. With you." Maya looked around the expensive restaurant, thinking about how different this was from the small cafe where she and Alex usually met. Ryan was offering her everything she'd thought she wanted 2 years ago. Financial security, social status, a clear path to the future. "I've already talked to Dr. Williams about you," Ryan continued. "He runs the best veterinary practice in the city. He said he'd be happy to hire you immediately, and he could help you get into the accelerated vet school program. You could be Dr. Maya Rodriguez in 3 years instead of 5. It was everything Maya had been working toward, handed to her on a silver platter. All she had to do was say yes to Ryan, but when she tried to picture herself in that life, something felt wrong. She kept thinking about Alex's patient smile when she came home exhausted from work. She thought about their long conversations about dreams and fears and silly things that made them laugh. She thought about how he'd started taking pictures again because of their friendship. Alex, meanwhile, was throwing himself into his photography project. The gallery owner had been so impressed with his night shift portraits that she wanted to feature them in a solo show. It should have been the best news of his career, but Alex couldn't enjoy it. Every picture he looked at reminded him of the conversations he'd had with Maya that inspired them. He'd started avoiding Maya, not because he was angry, but because he didn't know how to compete with someone like Ryan. Alex lived in a tiny apartment and drove a car held together with hope and duct tape. Ryan was a doctor with a successful practice and enough money to take Maya to fancy restaurants every night. The worst part was that Alex could see Maya pulling away. She was working even longer hours than usual, which he suspected was her way of avoiding having to choose between them. When they did talk, she seemed distracted and tired in a different way than before. Mrs. Chen noticed the change in both of them immediately. Alex had stopped humming while he walked up the stairs. Maya had stopped leaving thank you notes, even though Alex had started leaving small gifts again, hoping to remind her of how their friendship had started. "You're both being ridiculous," Mrs. Chen told Alex when she ran into him in the laundry room. "That girl cares about you more than you realize." "She's going back to her ex-fiancé," Alex said sadly. "He can give her everything I can't." "Security isn't the same thing as happiness," Mrs. Chen replied. "My husband was a maintenance worker his whole life. We never had much money, but we had something much more valuable. We had a partnership built on genuine love and respect." But Alex wasn't sure Maya saw it that way, and Maya wasn't sure what she wanted anymore. Ryan represented her old dreams, the safe path, the life she'd always planned. Alex represented something new and uncertain, but also genuine and beautiful. As she lay in bed each night, Maya found herself missing the simple happiness she'd felt just a month ago. Before Ryan came back, before everything got complicated, when the most important part of her day was a cup of coffee with Alex and his patient smile, when she told him about her latest animal rescue. The choice she had to make was becoming clearer every day, but that didn't make it any easier. Some decisions change everything, and Maya was starting to realize that whatever she chose would determine not just her future, but the kind of person she wanted to be. The decision came on a night Maya would never forget. She'd been avoiding both Alex and Ryan for 3 days, working extra shifts at the animal clinic to keep her mind busy. But sometimes life forces you to stop running from difficult choices. It was almost midnight when the emergency call came in. A car accident on the highway had injured not just people, but also a small dog that had been in one of the vehicles. The regular vet was sick, so Maya was handling the clinic alone except for Jake, the night security guard. The family that brought in the dog was in terrible shape emotionally. The grandmother, Mrs. Wilson, had been driving to the hospital to see her husband who'd had a heart attack earlier that day. Her little terrier, Buddy, had been with her when she got distracted by worry and ran a red light. "Please save him," Mrs. Wilson cried as Maya examined the injured dog. "I can't lose Buddy too. I just can't handle losing both of them in one day." Maya could see that Buddy had internal injuries and would need immediate surgery, but she also saw something else in Mrs. Wilson's eyes that she recognized from her own life lately. It was the look of someone who felt like everything important was slipping away at once. "I'm going to do everything I can," Maya promised. The surgery took 4 hours. Maya worked with steady hands even though she was exhausted, carefully repairing Buddy's damaged organs. While she worked, she thought about Mrs. Wilson sitting in the waiting room, probably thinking about her husband in the hospital and wondering if she'd made the right choices in life. Around 4 in the morning, Maya finally emerged from surgery. Buddy was stable and would recover fully. Mrs. Wilson burst into tears of relief when Maya gave her the good news. "How can I ever thank you?" Mrs. Wilson asked. "Just take good care of him," Maya replied, "and go see your husband. I bet he's been worried about you too." As Maya watched Mrs. Wilson leave with Buddy safely in a carrier, she realized something important. In that moment, working to save a life, she had felt completely like herself. Not worried about money or status or what other people thought she should want. Just focused on doing something that mattered. Maya drove home as the sun was starting to rise. She was exhausted but also strangely clear-headed for the first time in weeks. When she got to her apartment building, she found both Alex and Ryan waiting in the lobby. "Maya," Ryan said, standing up from one of the chairs, "we need to talk. I can't wait any longer for your answer." Alex was sitting on the other side of the lobby, holding 2 cups of coffee from their favorite cafe. He looked like he hadn't slept either. "I brought you coffee," Alex said quietly. "I know you probably had a long night." Maya looked at both of them and felt the weight of the choice she'd been avoiding. Ryan in his expensive suit, confident and successful, offering her the life she'd always thought she wanted. Alex in his old sweater and jeans, patient and kind, offering her something she'd never experienced before, but that felt more real than anything else in her life. "I need to tell you both something," Maya said. "I just spent 4 hours saving a dog's life. His owner almost lost her husband and her best friend in the same day. When I was working on that dog, I realized something important." Ryan looked impatient. Alex just waited for her to continue. "I realized that the happiest I've been in the past 2 years wasn't when I was planning some perfect future. It was in the small moments. Coming home exhausted and finding coffee outside my door. Talking for hours about nothing important. Having someone who understood why saving animals matters to me." Maya turned to Ryan first. "Ryan, you're offering me everything I thought I wanted. Security, success, respect. 2 years ago, I would have said yes immediately. But I'm not the same person I was 2 years ago." "Maya, think about what you're saying," Ryan interrupted. "I'm offering you a real future. Financial stability, a chance to be a real veterinarian instead of working night shifts at an emergency clinic." "That's exactly the problem," Maya said. "You think what I'm doing now isn't real or important. But tonight, I saved a life. I helped a family stay together. That's not less important than anything else, it's just different." Ryan's face showed he didn't understand. To him, success was measured in money and status, not in the small ways people helped each other. Maya turned to Alex. "And you've been avoiding me because you think you can't compete with what Ryan's offering." Alex nodded sadly. "I can't give you fancy restaurants or financial security or a clear path to success. But you gave me something more important," Maya said. "You saw me when I was tired and exhausted and you left me coffee anyway. You listened to my stories about injured animals like they were the most interesting things in the world. You made me feel like the person I already am was enough." Alex stood up slowly, hardly daring to hope. "Ryan, I'm grateful for everything we had," Maya continued. "But that was a different time and I was a different person. What you're offering isn't wrong, it's just not right for me anymore." Ryan shook his head. "You're making a mistake, Maya. You'll regret choosing uncertainty over security." "Maybe," Maya said. "But I'd rather regret taking a chance on something real than regret playing it safe with something that doesn't fit who I am anymore." After Ryan left, Maya and Alex sat in the lobby sharing the coffee he'd brought. Maya was still in her scrubs from the long surgery, and Alex's hair was messy from running his hands through it all night. I was so scared you were going to choose him, Alex admitted. I was scared too, Maya said. Not of choosing him, but of choosing the wrong thing for the wrong reasons. It took almost losing Mrs. Wilson's dog to remind me what really matters to me. What happens now? Alex asked. Maya laughed softly, and Alex realized it was the same tired but genuine laugh he'd fallen in love with months ago. But this time it sounded different. Hopeful instead of exhausted. Now we figure it out together, Maya said. I don't know what the future looks like, and maybe that's okay. Maybe the best things happen when you stop trying to control everything and just trust that you're with the right person. 6 months later, Alex's photography exhibition opened at the downtown gallery. The centerpiece was a series called Night Shift Heroes, featuring portraits of people like Maya who worked while the city slept. Maya was there in a dress she'd bought with her first paycheck from the new position she'd taken at a progressive animal hospital that valued her experience over her formal education. The gallery was full of people admiring Alex's work, but his favorite moment was when Maya stood in front of the portrait he'd taken of her at the clinic, smiling at a photo that captured her exactly as she was. Tired, dedicated, and beautiful. No regrets? Alex asked as they walked home together. Maya came straight into their shared apartment, tossed her jacket aside, and laughed softly. But this time it was the sound of someone who had found exactly where she belonged. None at all, she said, and meant it completely. Sometimes the biggest risk is not taking one. Sometimes choosing love over security, authenticity over status, and uncertainty over a predetermined path leads to exactly the life you were meant to live. Maya had learned that the soft laugh of someone coming home to the right person was worth more than all the fancy restaurants and financial security in the world.